Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning. Well, we got an active market over here in the treasuries. I'm trying to sort what's going on here. Now, first of all, let's make sure that our news clock is on, because clearly something's happening. Micron, AI, jobless. Yeah, I don't know. Well, we did have some news at the bottom of the hour. 215K versus 217 for the initial jobless claims, and the continued jobless claims in line with expectations and staying the same at 1.814 million. So, war is going. Yeah, although I would say that it was kind of like it isn't the first time that we've had even strikes during the memorandum of understanding, right? And they'll come in and they'll hit like 90 targets, but I'm kind of sitting here like, yeah, but is this actually doing anything? Right? I mean, this became a thing during the Vietnam War, right? They would go and strike all of these things and destroy all these roads, and then the Vietnamese would have the road rebuilt by the end of the day. Right? And I kind of wonder if that sort of thing is going on, because it's like they hit 90 targets, and like, how many effing targets are there? Right? Shouldn't Iran just be completely decimated by now? There shouldn't be anything to actually hit. Then overnight, Donald Trump says Iran talked to him. They really want a deal. And the markets are up a little bit. Well, actually, let's come back and look at the charts. The treasuries did have a move up overnight, but it's not that spectacular. S&P 500 on the upside looks a little bit better, so there is a risk on tone to it. Oil is still at 74, interestingly enough. Gold, silver, copper really bouncing there. Okay. Japanese yen still just kind of like disconnected from everything, and Bitcoin recovering a little bit too. Seriously though, it's like Donald Trump comes out and says something positive and the whole market goes gaga for it. He does this like every day. How many times are they going to fall for this? Who falls for this? Dozens and dozens of times. I'll tell you who. Robots. That's who. You know, everybody's talking about the dead internet theory. I'm starting to think that we have the dead market theory. Like, it's not actually people making the major decisions anymore. It's robots reading a tweet and doing stuff in the markets and not realizing that, like, oh, hey, like this has happened like 50 times now. Maybe they're not actually going to get a deal. This is a little irksome. Yesterday, we took a trade, by the way, right here in this spot where we're at right now, 109 even. So remember, I was kind of like, I would like to, that could maybe even turn into a swing. Well, I think that you get to the end of the session. It didn't really go. I don't think we ever got 26.5 yesterday, did we? Let's come back over here and look. Okay. I think that they did. They did, but then it came back. Right? So I kind of think that hopefully you took the profit here, or when it started coming back, you took a profit. And you kind of say, nah, I was not getting the kind of flow that I wanted for it to run. Or worst case, you scratch it at break even over here. You know, is this kind of a little bit, oh yeah, the war is going. Maybe this turned into a big thing. Oil, $100 a barrel again, this, that. But then where's the follow through? Where's the follow through? I don't see it. So, yeah. Well, what I'm hearing from the squawks on Twitter, 3 members of Iran's Revolutionary Guard killed in U.S. strikes on Iran on Thursday by a Mizan news agency. Qatar halts plans to speed up LNG production following Tanner attack. TSMC will move June sales data release from Friday to Monday due to typhoon. You know, we need to come into the weather watch here. We need to go to the NOAA. But normally we come to the NOAA to see Atlantic storms. But because we're in a super El Nino year, we're not going to get any of those. No, there should be like 0 hurricanes. But in the Pacific, maybe a little bit different. You see. So here's the typhoon that is going towards Taiwan, starting just south of Hawaii. I wish that the map was a little bit further out. Here's a typhoon that we think is going to come up to 60% chance of cyclone formation in 7 days. This one is really wild to me. Well, I've never... Well, I guess I have. I like paying attention to hurricanes in the Atlantic. You know, like you get warning of it almost 2 weeks in advance. That's what we're getting here. A cyclone kind of forming in the Gulf of California, and it looks like it's going to come up and then sweep up through California and into New Mexico. Not something that happens very often, but is happening this year and might maybe happen multiple times with the Super El Nino. Very, very interesting. Well, let's see here. A couple of other things that I want to look at here this morning. Graham Plattner suspends his Senate campaign. Thank goodness. Good grief. You know what? Like I should be like, yay, the Democrats did something stupid, right? But I really think that when stuff like that happens, it weakens the whole country. Of course, I'm sure that the Democrats will have a very democratic and reasonable process for replacing him, and that they won't just try and insert their chosen candidate from on high. I'm sure that's what they'll do, right? Also, I want to come in and check on my video yesterday. So I kind of feel like I had a breakthrough yesterday. Was talking with Claude. You know what? Claude, Fable, Mythos, whatever. It's Fable is the model that I've got. Really is amazing. I saw this post on Reddit the other day that just reflected my view on this so well. They said if you don't see what the big deal is with Mythos, you think that it's mid or you don't like it, then I know to just never listen to you about anything on AI ever again. That is 100% how I feel. I have done so many amazing things with Mythos. And one of the things that I find that it is particularly good for, because you know what? Oh, so some people promoted clips of your videos on Fat Cat Chat. You have to join now or something. Man, oh no, you know what? It was probably sorry, it was probably belligerent, right? So you know what? Because belligerent, it really watches him. And he was like, yeah, I can't necessarily explain it, but it seems to me like he's been trading really well, and I've seen him do really good stuff. And then he even showed me like some results, and the results were suspiciously good. They were suspiciously good. So I'm kind of like, I don't know, man. You can't explain it. All I know is, I go and I watch that one session. That was terrible trading. It was terrible trading, and what he is doing and what he says he is doing don't match up. It's just okay. But maybe he really has got something, and if he starts watching some of our videos, get even better. I don't know. Anyways, you totally made me do the ADHD thing and just completely forget my train of thought when I was going there. Okay, so anyways, I was saying Fable is really good. But here's the thing. It's not the thing that's valuable about Fable is not necessarily coding. Because who would be fucking... Oh, it's not. It's not that. It is an alert. Hold on. I know you want to hear what I'm saying here really badly, but I need to look at this alert. Where are you? Come on. No, it doesn't show it. Why is it showing that alert to me? Okay, I think we're okay. I said Mythos, so I had to interrupt. Yeah, I heard Mythos, so I had to interrupt. It's Fable. Okay, so here's the thing with Fable. Opus is pretty good at coding. Sometimes, if I have really good instructions, Sonnet is okay. But especially if I'm like debugging things, I find Sonnet just a little bit irritating. Opus does a pretty good job if you have a good plan, right? For most tasks, you will get the same result from Opus as you will from Mythos. Right? Where Mythos excels is something that's a really big project that requires a lot of logic, that really requires thinking and things like that. And so it turns out that the places where I have seen the most benefit from Mythos, well, of course, I've done some planning and I planned out multiple sprints now with Mythos, and it's done a really good job. And I've even directly compared it to what Opus would output, and it is just objectively superior. But asking it about strategy, like YouTube strategy and marketing strategy and stuff like that, when I have a problem, right, I want to help retail traders become more successful, but they want to become millionaires. And I can't come in on a video and say, I'm going to make you a millionaire. Here's how. Because the average customer, the average trader will lose money. That's just the way that a zero-sum game works. The majority of people have to lose, right? So how do you deal with that when you're competing against these people that are like, here's what you do to make super mondo money, and here's a big number, and all of these sorts of things, right? And I've talked to ChatGPT about this issue 1,000 times. I've talked to people and experts on this sort of a thing, and I kind of get lame response. Like I keep coming to this spot where it's like, oh, not everybody deals with this. Nobody really knows what to do. I have to figure it out. So I'm talking to Mythos about it, because one of the best pieces of advice that I see for making content is you need to sell a transformation. Don't just provide information, you're giving people a transformation. Well, how do you do that if the transformation that they want is they get $1 million, right? You're selling something that is just not genuine. And what Mythos told me that I thought was so insightful, it's kind of like, oh, why didn't I see that before? Is that I'm thinking of that transformation in terms of results. Oh, I want to make X $1,000 a year or something like that. And so that the transformation is the result. But a transformation is actually a change in identity, a change in the way that you see yourself. Right? So what I actually need to sell is that change in identity. For most retail traders, they're just shark bait. They're easy exit liquidity. They're suckers. They have no clue what they're doing. They're basically random. Professional can come in, stir the pot a little bit. They all start taking trades, and then they can do, and then the professional can do what they need to do, and the retail traders on net lose money. And that is the position that most retail traders are in. They want to work really hard. They are trying their best to be successful at trading, but they're just not going anywhere with it. It's not just that they're not getting the results, they're not making the money. They feel stuck because they can't figure out what they're doing wrong, right? And the transformation that we can give them is from going from somebody that's completely clueless, doesn't understand what's going on, to a trader that's dangerous. I don't know if dangerous is the right word. I worked with it a little bit on some different approaches, but for some reason, to me, the word dangerous speaks to me. I think it's because when I was a kid and I was doing stuff on the computer, my dad always said, oh, you know enough to be dangerous, right? Which I thought was kind of an insult. Like, you don't really understand it, but you understand enough of it that you could, bring down my computer or something like that, right? But it actually is maybe a compliment. You understand this thing enough that you can actually do stuff, right? As a trader, that means that you're not just sitting there watching what happens, taking random trades and being completely perplexed as to why things are turning out the way that they are. A dangerous trader understands what's going on, understands why things happened the way that they do, whether they won or lost, and actually stands a chance. They can actually be successful in the game, right? Like if you're playing basketball and they said he's dangerous, right? That means he actually has enough skill. We have to worry about him now, right? That's what I want you to be. It's like, you remember I always talk about that we live in an age of dinosaurs, right? The markets today is like the Jurassic era of markets. You got these huge lumbering institutions that just completely rule the markets, and what they do is basically all that matters. Like really, day trading comes down to predicting what these big guys are going to do and front running their orders. And the rest of us are just tiny little mammals scurrying around on the ground, trying to get some scraps and not get stepped on in the process, right? What do you do in that situation? Well, I hope, my theory is that the asteroid is already hit. And at some point, the size of these institutions is actually going to be a liability, and they are going to go out of business, and the smaller traders are going to win because they don't have to have the big size. But that's just a theory. But one thing that we know we can do either way is you can become dangerous. Don't just be a tiny little mouse scurrying around on the ground. You want to be the mammal with claws and fangs, and you can actually do something. You're actually a threat, right? So I have the picture of a mongoose in my mind versus a mouse, right? Because a mongoose will kill a cobra, right? This is something, it hits above its weight, right? But then you think about it, and you're kind of like, yeah, but a mongoose can't kill a T-Rex, right? That's why what I'm going to do is I'm going to strap effing laser cannons on your backs. That's what Mugen is, right? Mugen. I should say it like that. Mugen. That's what Mugen is. Real power that gives the retail traders a true fighting chance in this game, right? That's the transformation. That's the transformation. This is the thing that I've been looking for this whole time. That's kind of like, yeah, but how do you sell that? It just doesn't seem to be working, right? I think they need to learn how to use professional tools. You can't win trading on the phone. You're totally right, Vital. So I made a video last night trying to test out that narrative. And one of the things that I definitely need to do here is, like, I got to do it multiple times. Like, for one, if you haven't posted a short in a while, it seems like it doesn't do well. I don't know what's with that, but they just, like, the first one doesn't do very well. It's like it's searching for the audience for you or something. And I think that in the past, when I've tried to experiment with certain messaging, I do it and I'm like, this didn't work. There's this problem, and I give up on it immediately, right? This one, I really got to stick with it. Like, I've got to just, like, hit that note over and over and over again for, like, a month and see how it goes. But, I made a video yesterday saying, hey, you don't want to be the easy exit liquidity. Don't be easy exit liquidity. And here's how you end up being that easy exit liquidity is you go and you learn something, and maybe it's totally a true and useful thing about markets, but then you try and interpret everything with just that one tiny little lens. And you don't use the full array of tools that are available to you. The average retail analysis out there is simply too narrow to ever result in a really effective strategy. And part of that is because they've been told, all you got to do is just find this one tiny little edge and just really focus on that one edge, and over a large enough period, you're going to make money and stuff like that, right? Well, if you are a hedge fund, right, and you can take millions of trades, and you have all of this capital and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, then yeah, you can get that to work. But when you're a retail trader, you have certain limitations. You can only handle a certain drawdown, and you need real performance. A tiny little thing like that is just not going to bring it to you. And what the studies show, quite contrary to what many people in the industry say, because they say, like, keep it simple. But the studies show that when you combine a bunch of small edges together, the more that you combine together, the more edge there is in it. So the whole trick here is you want a strategy that is complicated and nuanced, but is simple to execute. That's what you really want as a retail trader. So you want something where you can do the majority of the analysis up front, so that then when it is time for the execution, you can focus just on the execution. And that's simple. You can do it at a moment's notice, right? That's the whole trick. But people have been told you should just do the one teeny tiny little thing, and no, that's not going to work. And really, you need to have the 7 things. What are the 7 things? News, instrument, correlations, volatility, order flow, macro, allocation. Right? So I made a video basically like that. How did it do? I'm probably going to be disappointed, right? Well, let's see how it did on YouTube specifically. I did get comments. Oh, Vital saw it because I said Marco instead of macro. See, that's funny. I am just going to leave it as Marco and pretend like it was engagement bait. Okay? Here's another comment. Pure scatterbrain garbage rolled into an ADHD hot pocket. Well, that's a little disappointing. But at least they were triggered enough to comment. That's something, right? It seems like that's kind of interesting. It did not push it out as much. Maybe I was a little bit too, like you have that clickbaity intro and like hook, and it seems like you're using a large language model, and maybe that turns people off. I don't know. Engagement. I don't get numbers on audience retention yet. But how and viewers engaged? 51.3% stayed to watch. Is that not good? Is that not good enough? I don't know. This was constantly coming in as where it's like, I feel like the content should do better than it does. But I find it also curious. My other shorts did not prompt anybody to say things like, this is trash. Isn't that interesting? I find that interesting. Is that perhaps a tea leaf suggesting that maybe we did trigger them? Maybe they think, oh no, I'm not shark bait. I need to test the different terms. What is this? What do we call this beginner that doesn't really know what's going on, and they just end up being exit liquidity? Right? Boy, we can call them exit liquidity. That kind of narrative really resonates with me. But maybe it's too sophisticated. Maybe we just need to call them suckers. There's a lot of suckers in the day trading space, isn't there? Treasuries up the highs here. Let's come in and fill in our levels. right at extended session plus 1 sigma. So not the best spot for a trade. I know. I want to make another video today though, so I'm really trying to make one every day. I want to get back to making a short every day. Hard. I want to make a short every day. And most of it will be trying to test this kind of identity transformation thing idea. So I don't know, kind of mixed results there. That's interesting though. Well, we'll see. And I didn't really get what happens if I go on TikTok. Posted it. I recorded it in TikTok. Posted it out, right? 103. So I mean, it did push it out, but it wasn't that great. Maybe it just wasn't that good of a script. I want to make a video because I want retail traders to understand how things get morphed into, like, from good useful market information to slop that really works against them. I really think, well, I don't know. I test the message right here, not necessarily like testing your reactions, but like, can I actually say it like how when I speak about it live? I feel like that's a more natural way of thinking and coming up with scripts. It's like I mean, it's like a cargo cult, right? So I think you have to be really wary of the professionals. And when I say professionals, I'm not talking about like, oh, they've made a bunch of money or they're using a funded trader program or something. No. I'm talking about real professionals, like guys working for a bank or a hedge fund or something like that. When they come out and they're talking to retail traders, you should be very, very wary. Not just because, you know, they have their own agenda and maybe their incentives aren't really aligned with you and all of that sort of stuff. No, it's not even that. It's that they really do not understand retail traders. They don't understand what retail traders know and don't know. They don't understand the frameworks and misinformation that retail traders are working from. And so they're going to come out and they're going to tell you something, and you will not have the context to understand what they're saying, let alone be able to apply it effectively. And so that's why the trading content turns into cargo cults every time. This is a professional will come out and say something and everybody goes, ah, yes, that's what we need to do. And then you're all trying to copy what they're doing. And of course, because you don't know anything about the professional world, you're not going to be able to effectively apply that principle. And then that principle is maybe not even useful to what you have to do as a retail trader anyways. Like what your goals are, what your limitations and opportunities are so different from what happens in the professional world. There's very, very little crossover, right? And we treat it like the golden truth. And that's how it kind of morphs over time, turns into a cargo cult, and becomes something that really doesn't help you. What are you talking about here, Vital? Turns out there are 20 to 30 companies of S&P 500 with negative PE ratio and 4 in NQ. Oh, well, that is kind of weird, isn't it? Because NQ is a much larger index. You would expect there to be more of them. But it does seem that as of late, when you look at like the dogs of the Dow and things like that, they tend to be more more traditional corporations and not so much tech companies. and they're not doing very well. Mm-hmm. I keep thinking, okay, do I need to start paying attention to the treasury here? But it's still within that E+1. I think that in a past Seth would have been excited about it here at O2. But I think that right now it's kind of trying to bait you into taking buys at O2. By the way, I liked Bill's analogy there. You need to use all the toys in the sandbox. You really do. You really do. From Zero Hedge, a slower AI payoff would be everyone's problem if Chinese models keep gaining and token prices keep falling. The hyperscaler cash flows expected may prove too optimistic. To make Canada great again, Prime Minister Mark Carney is abandoning climate alarmism and embracing what made the country wealthy in the first place, crude oil. Well, you think that he would have done that if not for the Iran war and everything? Slow hire, no fire economy continues as jobless claims remain near record lows. You know, you saw it a little bit earlier this year when it was like maybe things finally cleared and all of a sudden the hiring picked up substantially. I really think that if we can get this Iran thing behind us, regardless of which way we do it, and the Trump administration doesn't decide to open up some other front, because, man, it really kind of seems to me like they thrive on crisis. Like there has to be some sort of a crisis going on. There has to be some sort of drama. And if it's not happening, they're going to go and create it. So, okay, we kind of resolved all of the trade war stuff. So now let's have a war with Iran. And now if we've solved the war with Iran, maybe we can have a war with Cuba. Or maybe we'll have a war with Canada. Who knows? It's just, you know, I hope that once we get the Iran thing solved, that they go, okay, now we need to focus on economic growth. We've taken care of most of the big issues. You know, let's just let everybody recover. And when that happens, yeah, you're gonna get some hiring. This is gonna get a little crazy, and that's probably the reason I mentioned that is because that's probably gonna be a little bit of the headwind for the treasuries, right? I was hoping, you know, the treasuries could recover big here. There's some real upside. Oh, okay, but they did bust O2, by the way, too, as well. There's still an overnight high, O3 half to keep an eye on. I don't think I'm quite interested in it yet, but that was a significant breakout past the extended session +1 sigma. Oh, Feds Williams is speaking right now too. That might be part of it. So you got to be careful about that because a lot of flows that come off of the central bank speakers are often short-lived. Anyways, I was thinking, you know, there's like two scenarios where treasuries could go up. One is that everything just kind of relaxes and we kind of go back towards, oh, we need to normalize rates. And one is, oh, this is terrible and we have a recession, right? Well, I think that kind of like, oh, everything is just fine and then we normalize rates scenario, like gets pushed back right? And you're going to see something where like third, fourth quarter of this year, if we do resolve things, you see an increased hiring, and that's going to make the central bankers a little nervous. So it's a headwind for the treasuries. Anyways, on Canada, Apol says, yes, I actually do think the Canada-Trudeau thing would have happened without the war. Remember how Bill Gates came out saying that climate change hoax was fake all along? They had to about face. Yeah. Well, he didn't exactly say that the climate change hoax was fake, though. So the reason I want to push back on that is because that might make you think that, oh, Bill Gates is going to be all full speed ahead, yada, yada, yada. And that's not really what he thinks. What did they really say? They said that that coming out and like increasing everybody's power bill and making everybody terrified about it and actively hurting people's lives over climate change was hurting their ability to address climate change. That's really what he said, right? So I don't think it is accurate to say that Bill Gates no longer believes in climate change. I think that he has maybe decided that it's not a dire thing per se, and he has decided that they need to use different tactics. So, will those tactics be in line with the sorts of things that I would like to see? Because, like, here's the thing. I am climate change agnostic. I am not a climate scientist. Every time I try going down that rabbit hole, I realize that there is just so much stuff that you have to read and understand to really know where this debate is at and which of these, because you want somebody to show you a study that shows that climate change is a hoax, so they can find it, right? And then you have to criticize that study, and you look at all of them together, and it's just, I have time for that. I'm sorry, it's just not my area of expertise. You shouldn't. I hate this thing that like you have to be super uppity about every issue. Whatever the thing of the week is, we need you to be out there fighting for us on social. Screw that. No. Pick your lane. Pick your lane and focus on that. My lane is economics and trading. Okay? And computers. And social media. And I have too many lanes. Okay? But my lane is not climate change. Right? But here's the thing. I want to see us utilize resources more effectively. I want to see us emit less pollution. Aren't those things that most people want to see happen, regardless of whether or not climate change is real? But the question is, how do you do those things? I say that the best way to do it is technological progress. Unleash the free market, and if there is really value in that thing, and I think that, if it's so dire that the world is gonna, die, then there's definitely value in it. Okay. And the market will figure it out. And the market is the best tool that we have to deal with these things. And stop using it as an excuse to increase government. Because that hasn't worked. Well, based on Bill Gates' comments, I kind of think maybe they are coming my way. But I am obviously a little skeptical. Randomly attacking everyone and everything for made-up reasons that you're actively making up now. Remember how the oceans are rising? Must be up 100 feet by now. Oh, man. Dude, Apol, that is one of the things about climate alarmism that has proven, like, that's the number one thing that my mind goes to whenever the climate change subject is brought up, is people saying, oh, all of our cities are going to be underwater. No, they're not. The projected rise in sea level is like 1 meter over 100 years. That does not put New York City underwater. That maybe puts some atolls out in Florida underwater, but it doesn't. The effect is not so dramatic, right? So, like all of the things, the doomsday scenarios that the climate activists use are scientifically inaccurate. They're trash. So on one hand, they come in and they say, trust the science and all of this stuff. And then they go and in their actual social media, they push stuff that is objectively not scientific. What's with that? Yeah. Trust the science is bullshit. Let me tell you something. The argument, trust the science, is bullshit. It is a logical fallacy. It is an appeal to authority. So what are they really saying? You don't know what you're talking about. You should trust this other authority person, and we should just do everything that they say. That's an appeal to authority. I say, don't trust people, trust data. If they're really an expert, they should be able to show it to me with the data. And if you really actually go and look at the data, what does it say? 1 meter rise. Seriously. And that just kind of exposes the whole thing. It's not because they really think that, they have a sound understanding of it and you just need to be an expert in it to understand it like that, like it is in trading and all this. No, it is a control tactic. Because then when it comes to what they do and how they promote things, they don't trust the science. So that's how you know that they don't really genuinely believe in it. They don't really... Most of these people that you're arguing with on Reddit about climate change don't know what empirical evidence is. Now, is climate change a hoax? Well, there have certainly been a number of prominent cases where we have found that data was not as bad as it appeared, or that models had been intentionally distorted to sell something. Yes. I think it's inaccurate to call it a hoax. I'm okay with you calling it a hoax because I kind of understand that, some of that is political posturing and hyperbole. But if we're trying to be like really specific and accurate and scientific about it and everything, I wouldn't call it a hoax. I would say it's more controversial and nuanced than is presented in the media. Is what I would say. Let's see here. Paul, nope. Climate change wasn't a hoax. We just pushed a tiny bit too hard trying to prepare against it. Well, I don't know about that either. I think that it wasn't just they pushed a little bit too hard trying to prepare against it. I think that it was basically used as an excuse to push communism is what happened. Right? They have some fake data. It's more a fraud, technically. Oh, there you go. We'll call it a fraud. Oh. The earthquake is Venezuela cleanup is still going on. They got effing crushed. Oh, dude, the Venezuela earthquake was bad. Some of the videos that I saw where, like earthquake happens and buildings just immediately collapse are just... That's rough, man. I don't know. Like going back to the climate change thing, because again, I'm agnostic, and I think the thing that I'm agnostic on in particular is like, is climate change human caused, and will we actually improve our fortunes by reducing carbon emissions? That to me is really the like big controversial point that I think it gets pushed as like a foregone conclusion that is not supported by science, right? I think that you could kind of say that like these are forces that are beyond us, and what we do probably doesn't change very much, at least not with the current things that we're trying to do. That you really have to like have significant improvements in technology to get to a point where you can make a real difference. But all the data that I've seen and every time that I've gone into it suggests that for whatever reason, the climate is getting, when you look at the planet as a whole, hotter. That's, I'd say the data is pretty clear on that point. Yeah, exactly. Ultimately, the convictions about climate change were brought more from ideology rather than scientific knowledge. Yeah, well, yes. Yeah, so can you see the same thing happening with AI? Can you see it happening? Like, the people that should be the most interested in AI and the most excited about it should be liberals, because liberals are, we're going to move forward, we're excited about the future, and we're going to replace existing systems of repression and make things better. So AI should be a great tool. And guess what? Like, one of the biggest constituencies for the left has been people in tech. All of these, that's how San Francisco came to be what it is today, right? Is it attracted all of these people doing computers, and they were all liberal, and then they kind of turned San Francisco into this hyper liberal. I mean, it was always liberal, but it really went off the rails once the techies took over, right? The very people that are creating the AI. But then all of a sudden, they're pushing it as, AI is going to replace everybody. You're all going to be out of work, yada, 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 yada. Maybe in part pushing that narrative because they kind of want communism, and they think maybe this would be an excuse for communism. And what they did instead was they just got all of the liberals scared about losing their jobs. And so now we live in this super bizarre world where the Republican president is the pro-AI president, and the liberals are anti-AI. Oh man, that is not one that I could have predicted. It's crazy, right? And how is that happening? Because it is based more in ideology than scientific knowledge. Yep, 100%. Our ability to predict what is going to happen with AI is extremely limited. But when you look at the science that we do have that is relevant to this sort of a thing, which I believe is complexity economics. When you look at it from the lens of complexity economics, this scenario where like AI takes all of the jobs and everything is just not going to happen. It can't happen because it would collapse the system. It's like a singularity. You're looking at the graph. There's this little singularity here. It's like that. How does that work? Doesn't make sense. So that framework must be wrong. No, it's going to be what has happened with every other socially and economically disruptive technology, which is that the market is going to adjust until it gets to a point where it benefits everybody. And it's only until it benefits most people that it can move forward. Right? Because it was a hoax from the beginning. If some of their data is still, I feel like that's too strong of a statement. You should argue with Fable about that. should argue with Fable, and it will go. One of the things that, because I've argued with Fable about well, different things, but similar-ish sort of a thing. And it really dissects your sentences into, okay, you're making this claim, and this claim. Here are the three specific components of the thing that you're claiming, and then what evidence do we have to say they're true or not? And then it will go through all the right. So to claim that the climate change is a hoax, I think it would push back really, really hard on that one. No. But it was used to push a lot of nonsense, wasn't it? It's a problem. Is what liberals do is they sit around and they think, okay, what's going on in the world that might help me politically? And then they go and they find that issue, whether it's climate change or AI or the cost of housing, right? And then they blow that thing up really, really big and turn it into this huge bat that they can wield against their opponents, right? So you can take, like, housing is another good example here, because guys, there is a housing problem in the Western world. There absolutely is. And the most liberal areas are the areas that have the biggest problems. I wonder why that might be. Go figure, right? And so, it's a real problem. It's affecting people. It's probably of all of the issues that we can deal with in the United States that would improve the lives of everyday people, housing is probably the biggest one that you could go and tackle, right? Okay. So then the liberals see this as a problem. Do they say, we need to go and build more houses? No. They say, wow, you know what we need to do to fix the housing market? Communism. What? It's every freaking time. That's what they do. The sad thing about it is that there is a form of progressivism, liberalism, that is not just trying to make communism happen, okay? But you just can't trust them anymore, because there are too many of these crypto communists out there that are just trying to manipulate everything towards that direction, that it's become so much of a problem now in the Democrat Party that you just can't trust anything over there anymore. It's gotten to that point. I think that a majority of Americans are starting to realize it. Like this whole Democrat Socialists of America thing, Democratic Socialists of America thing is really opening people's eyes when you go and you hear what they're saying. And yeah, they basically want communism. They realize that people in America are never going to riot and overthrow the government to institute a communist government. So they are saying, how can we manipulate the public into creating a communist government instead? And who is even caring to fix or help it? It is everything. I was just really, the thing that's wild to me about housing is here's a situation where the economic history and the economic science is abundantly clear that price caps don't work. They make the problem worse, because now nobody has any incentive to invest in creating more housing. So they just don't make as many houses, and then the problem gets worse. This has been tried numerous times in history. We know what happens. We know why it happens. And that's still the solution they present. How crazy. Man, even if you're a communist, Like, guys, the Chinese figured it out. This is the funniest thing about it, right? Is that the communists in China, they're still 100% dedicated to communism, right? But they have realized, hey, this thing and this thing doesn't work. So they changed things and they started doing what works. And what works basically turns their economy into a capitalist economy run by communists. And the communists over here in the United States don't see that. They still want to go and push solutions that have basically been discredited almost 100 years ago. Let's say 50 years ago. And in this country, the great old USA, if you try to build a house here and can't do it yourself, guess what? They are pulling it together with cardboard and lies that will fall for you. I mean, man, it's just... And it's really those cities that have the problem. I think the sad thing about it is that I think that what's going to happen is you're going to see a generational decline in cities like San Francisco and New York. Austin, Texas, and Salt Lake City are going to become the new centers of startup capitals of the United States. And then who knows? Maybe that cycle just goes all over again. Can you imagine Provo, Utah becoming a hyper liberal city and going down that path and everything? But it just kind of seems to me like that's what happens is you get people that are very creative and entrepreneuring, and they come in and they make new businesses and they become very, very successful with it. And so those people get a lot of money, and then they, because of their personality, are going to trend towards liberal policies and liberal policies that don't work. And then communists come in and hijack the whole thing until it all falls apart. And all of the people that were actually like building stuff flee to another city. And it'll just keep happening. Cycle again and again and again, because for some reason, well, not for some reason, I think that socialism is kind of ingrained into your genes. That's what it is that the world changed. When it was tribes, socialism worked really well. But once we turned into cities and countries, and then especially the global economy, and then especially the global information economy, and now I don't know what we're going to call the economy after AI, but it's going to be something different. Those ideas they don't scale. Socialist ideas don't scale. And so you kind of have this propensity to be generous and to share built into you, when really what helps the society the most is doing your thing and trying to be as successful as you can. And that's how you build stuff. And socialism doesn't build anything. The other thing about socialism that always comes up, that I always want to point out in my rants against communism, is that the economic calculation problem. People do not understand what something is worth. They don't know what to make, what to do, what is actually helpful, what the community actually needs without a market. You just literally can't do it, because the data that you need to be able to understand those things all comes from the transactions that we make in a market. And when you get rid of that, all evaporates and nobody knows what to do. And eventually, even the most motivated people lose any interest in doing anything. They go, well, everybody else is just kind of sitting around and doing nothing. I guess I'll do that too. Very, very, very sad. There's this, I wish I could remember the name of the city, but there was a guy in the United States that he wanted to found a city that was a socialist city and whatnot. And, there's this whole history about how it fell apart. Because this was a guy that had like big money. So like they put a lot of money into it and everything. And it just didn't work. Just didn't work. It's the economic calculation problem. Always got to point that one out, because that's the economic calculation problem is kind of the thing that the communists don't understand. That is why their ideology just doesn't work. Wow. So where are we at? 7:44. Oh, and we get the extra hour. I tell you what, because we have 3 days short session and 2 days longer session, because I don't have to drive on Tuesday, Thursday. It really messes with my sense of time. Because I'm kind of like, oh, okay, like I've gotten through about the amount of content that I normally do on a day. It's probably time to wrap it up. But then it's like, actually, no, we can keep going for a whole nother hour. Isn't that great? While we're talking about political issues, I don't know. I don't necessarily want to spend a lot of time talking about political issues per se. But the truth is I love doing it. And that's just where my mind goes. And, it tends to generate more engagement too. So I'm always kind of get funneled into that. I got to be careful. I don't want the stream to be like, if you were a liberal, you just can't stand being here. Well, if you're a communist, I don't care if you watch, right? Communists aren't going to help anybody. Remember, communism, let's just say socialism in general. Socialism is a loser ideology. It was created by losers, for losers, and following it will make you a loser. And I don't want losers here. I want to create dangerous traders. And I don't think I can make a dangerous trader out of a socialist. so they can go away. But there are some people that are more liberally minded or progressively minded. They maybe vote Democrat, and I don't want them to be like, can't stand watching the stream. So you gotta be careful about how I approach it. So with that said, I'm going to go into a subject that will definitely piss off Democrats. And that is when it comes to immigration, have you noticed the distinct lack of interest in scientific study about immigration? I mean, there's definitely some economic studies about it out there, but they all seem to be very limited and very often don't address the real thing that's at question. And this is, again, another thing that I think Bill Gates and crew are kind of beginning to understand. Is that, well, you do get economic growth because more people tends to result in more economic growth, but it's a different quality of economic growth. There are other people that are harmed by it, and it reduces social cohesion. It creates volatility and uncertainty, and that's economically damaging. And I genuinely think that we need to be concerned about the economies of like Germany and France in the next, because I mean, they have not performed as well as the United States over the past 20 years. And it seems to me that the next 20 years are going to be even worse. And then are you going to turn around and look at it and say like, oh yeah, immigration is always objectively good. So it's economically good always. It's more complicated than that. You just don't want to do the science. You're afraid of what it might say. Yeah, real scientists ruin their name and career for talking about those. Yeah. Well, that's another thing is I tell you what, the world of economics, there are definitely people in economics that are doing really amazing research. And I really like the things that the complexity economics is getting into, because it really exposes the main problems that we've had with economics and puts us into a better world where we can really, really use the science for good. But the whole, like, institutional structure and institutional capture over there, and it's real. It's real. And there's these economists out there that are basically just hacks for the Democrat Party. People that are like really talented, but they just can never see anything in any lens other than like, how does this help Democrats? It's crazy. By the way, they did tag 03 half, but they still kind of seem pegged to 03. I'm a little bit worried about this one because remember our discussion yesterday about like trading macro, right? Well, macro flows end up being some of the biggest flows out there that are the longest and most persistent. So you absolutely want to take advantage of that. But you have this minefield in front of you of, one, when Donald Trump is speaking live and what he might say, and two, both of the U.S. administration and Iran trying to jawbone markets their way. So basically what happened overnight was Donald Trump jawboned the markets and said, well, Iran really wants a deal to kind of save the indexes, right? Now the risk is that Iran is going to come out and do something to screw the markets over. So can you really trust it? Can you really trust the long and the treasury? I hope you can. There was definitely, starting before the stream, a pretty good long impulse down there. So we'll see. We'll see if they persist through for the next hour or if that sputters out and turns around. So now I'm thinking if I should try going into some of the coding tasks that I have. I think I got everything for the licensing working correctly. And so the next step would be to deploy some stuff, which for whatever reason I feel a little apprehensive about. I think I feel apprehensive about it because what I've done to have it all set up is not necessarily ideal. I keep having this strange issue with my DNS. You know, I don't think that I've sicked Babel on it. Maybe I should try that. Okay. I'm trying debug the DNS today. That's what I'm going to do. Because that's the thing that's making me apprehensive. Is I'm introducing licensing. Well, actually, I shouldn't be, because I'm introducing licensing into the application, and if it can't contact the licensing server, it's still okay for 7 days. So that shouldn't stop me from using it. So maybe I should just deploy it, but are any of the markets really doing anything interesting? Well, the S&P 500 has been up since the start, I guess, but that's just kind of like normal behavior. Kind of seems like the markets are pretty quiet today. Silver, the gain in silver is 3%. That's pretty big. Okay. Well, it's asking me decent questions so far. Hmm. Oh, here's an interesting thread. Why did nobody tell me backtesting was mostly a waste of my time? Genuinely feel stupid for how long I believed the hype. Before I explain, ask yourself honestly, has your backtested win rate ever matched what you got live? Yes. Okay, if it's a good backtest, it will. So really what you're saying is your backtesting sucks.
Block buy.
Okay, they're going. So that was kind of curious, because that's like 3 or 4 ticks all at once, and I would expect maybe that would be like Strait of Hormuz news or something, but we're not getting it. We did have the existing home sales report, I suppose. 1.09 million versus the expected 4.2, so that's a change of negative 2.4%. Does possibly boost treasuries a little bit, but that still doesn't explain it, I don't think. Meta unveils paid AI developer model for the first time. I thought they were getting out of their business. U.S. officials said the current escalation could last a day or two, a week or a month, depending on whether Iran continues attacking ships in the Strait of Hormuz. Well, let's keep an eye on it. There was definitely some volume behind that. So, we got regular session plus 1 sigma. Like that first line. I don't know. Usually the 2 lines are close together and it goes to the second one. Here this time they went to the second one as well, but beyond that one I really don't like it. So anyways, I never backtested. I saw everyone doing it, saw the hype, tried it for a bit, and the second I actually looked at what it was giving me, I felt like I'd been sold something. Hours logging historical setups that told me nothing about the one thing that actually decides whether you make money. What happens in your head with real capital on the line. This is AI slop, isn't it? A backtest doesn't hesitate on the entry. It doesn't move to stop out of fear. It doesn't revenge trade after a day. Every real loss I've ever taken came from psychology, and backtesting trains a version of you that has none. Skipping it and just trading small live from day one is what actually built me as a trader, because it doesn't train the emotional side from one trade instead of a spreadsheet version by myself that doesn't panic. Honestly, the cheapest and fastest way I found to get this training was starting on a funded account challenge instead of saving up some capital. This is AI slop. So much of this makes no sense. This must be AI slop. What is this account? 300 karma. 3-year club. Sabhan Sahi. So he's probably using AI because English isn't his first language. I also wonder, is he talking about hours logging historical setups? So that sounds to me like he's going through a chart. Well, I'm not going to respond. Kind of tempted to say something, but you can be exit liquidity. Oh, this should be a good thread. Which $20 plan is better, Codex or Claude Code? I don't know. I haven't tried Codex. Codex runs out less. Well, I usually don't run out, so that's not a problem for me. Claude has higher intelligence, but usage limits make it unusable, so Codex is the only realistic. I think there's way too many people out there that are just have no clue what they're doing and are relying entirely on the AI. Because that's got to be why they're complaining about the... Deadly bacteria found in major U.S. cities' water system traced to Mark Zuckerberg's 800 million data center? Per Tech Radar. Okay. Mitch McConnell has been mysteriously hospitalized for 3 weeks. What do you believe is happening? I believe that he is probably on his deathbed, but still conscious. Coming back down. I don't know, man. What was that initial spike? Kind of made me think, well, maybe there's more recovery flows because they really believe the tensions are going to die down sort of narrative, right? Well, I think the fact that they sputtered back out and are coming back down to 0.3 so quickly kind of hurts that theory. Big news that in the AI world yesterday was that there's this coding contest that last year that OpenAI entered into and the humans barely beat it, and this year the AI beat all of the humans by like double the score. It just demolished the humans. Gonna recenter there. I'm also wondering, well, does it make sense to take a reversal here? Well, I think I could concoct some scenarios where it would work out, but I don't think that the delta on the way down here is enough for me to be like, oh yeah, I would definitely want to go short. Has decided to create a PowerShell file to probe the DNS. Fable is getting serious. Oh, excuse me. Okay. The story I'm interested in reading about, there's been this whole thing where there's a library written in a programming language called Zig, which is kind of a new language. And some guys at Anthropic had this library called Bun, I think it was, that was written in Zig. And they were having issues that Rust kind of solves, so they decided to convert it over to Rust. They vibe coded it over, and it's pretty wild. The way that they did it and everything, they used like clusters of 64 Claude agents working on it at a time. So it was a big project. They burned a lot of tokens doing it, but it's Anthropic. It's causing a lot of drama because, you know, a lot of people are championing Zig over Rust. And this is kind of suggesting that, nope, in the world of agentic AI, you want to use Rust. Both OpenAI and Anthropic have both made pretty large investments in Rust now. It's becoming very clear to me that the near future is Rust. But I don't think I can read that one out loud to you guys. It'd be too boring. So I will put it in the back of my... I have not tried Haskell. When I was in school, they had this beginning course, and well, it wasn't a beginning course, but it was one of the starting programming courses. And the year before I took it, they did it in Haskell, and everybody hated it so much that they switched. And I can't remember if that was the class that was done in Java or if that was the one that they did in C++. I don't know. I remember having real problems with the C++ one because, you know, I would get all of the code and do it all right and everything. And then they had these tests that would check your code and score you on that. And it was like, it wasn't anything that they told you that they were going to test you on or anything. So they catch you off guard. And there's just so many ways to screw it up in C++, you know? So. But, like, the thing that's funny to me is I have had an easier time programming in Rust than I have in C++. The things that intimidate people about Rust aren't actually that intimidating. The reality is that using Rust is a lot more like using C# or Java than it is using C. And the things that are intimidating to people about it are really more issues of the ecosystem in Rust, like the libraries that are available and stuff not being as developed. I think. OpenAI's Altman on reports of a U.S. government stake in OpenAI says there are a lot of inaccuracies there. Oh, so he's not denying the story. He's just saying there's a lot of inaccuracies. That's curious. Haskell is even more difficult to adopt. Yeah, like Haskell has weird structures and concepts that are just difficult to wrap your head around, as I understand it, and syntax that is just needlessly complicated. It was kind of, I mean, the interesting thing about Haskell is that Haskell was kind of like an academically created language. Like, it was created to try and represent, like, somebody's conception of the most pure and correct code. Whereas Rust was written to solve a specific problem. We have memory issues in C++. Let's fix those by making those things that the compiler enforces. Rust is extremely successful because they tackled an issue that was a real issue. Haskell kind of ends up being a little useless because it was all just an academic exercise. I find it helps though to keep the code clean, especially if you have a hobby project that you leave for a while and come. I don't know. I feel like that now that we got Fable, that so the thing with Fable is you get it in the regular accounts until the 10th. For whatever reason, they decided to extend it until tomorrow. So there's a lot of people that earlier in the week used all their tokens up, and then Anthropic said, oh, well, people didn't all completely use it up, so maybe we give them a little bit more time, I guess. I don't know. You say the 12th now? The weekend. They're going to give people the weekend. Yeah. Well, then it goes away, right? Nah. It'll come back. Maybe it'll be a year. Like, what'll happen is there will be another model that will come out. It'll be like Mythos 2 or something like that. And then they'll say, oh, now we can make Mythos 1 available to everybody with the $20 subscription. Like, it'll come back eventually, right? At some point, Fable will be like the low-level default. And you might say, no, that can't happen. It's too expensive. But they keep making these huge strides that like reduce token usage and all like every memory usage. There's been a couple of major developments, or even just over the past month. So I think you're actually going to be shocked how quickly the inference costs come down. At some point, Fable will be the default. And Fable is so good at planning and coding that I really think it's not just like it changes the job. Like, coding comes in and people start questioning, do we need as many engineers? That the very nature of the job has changed. We're all kind of more product owners. We're not spending as much time just coding, right? But I really think that Mythos changes things so much that it really is turning into, you need to optimize for the AI as much as possible. That makes sense? So, like, I still don't think that Fable replaces all software engineers. Let's see here. Seth changed his mind about it. I don't know if that's true, because I never felt like I was anti-AI. I was definitely, there was some points at the beginning when I was like, you don't just like take what the AI regurgitates out to you and then submit it for a pull request. That's dumb. I still wouldn't do that, actually. But it has come to that the AI is becoming more proficient than the average person. It's just not this case. Like I think the argument that I see a lot of developers that are still on the, anti-AI side of things are making this argument that, like, well, the AIs make slop and you're going to get a better product if you just let humans do it. And that's not true anymore, man. It's not true anymore. You see the hacker of that results of that competition was twice as effective as the people. We're getting to the point where the AI is just objectively better at the task. And so what the human does is different, right? The human's job is to decide what to do, not necessarily doing it, right? But because it's so much more effective, it's basically turning into you should adjust everything to optimize for the AI workflow. So, yeah, I might like to use C# because it's a little bit easier for me to understand. I have more experience with it, etc., etc., etc. Doesn't make sense anymore. I genuinely think that in my personal projects, I don't see myself making anything outside of Rust for a long time. I really think that the large language models are all about to laser focus in on Rust. And you're going to see this massive shift of everything moving over to Rust. Maybe at some point, there will be some sort of AI native programming language that like humans can't practically code in, but that the AIs are even more effective with. And then maybe everybody will switch to that. But in the meantime, I really think that you want to do everything in Rust. That all of the things that advantages that you got from a garbage collected language like C# and Java they don't help you anymore because AI fixes all of those problems instead. And I think there's still some value in knowing raw coding, doing leak code style coding problems and stuff like that. But that's not going to be the job anymore. And the job is going to be increasingly more just about telling the AI what to do. And how good are you at telling the AI what to do? I think I'm really good at telling the AI what to do, so maybe that's why I think that. Okay, so let's see what it says. Here's what I found. Your DNS job is probably not the cause. The lab runs DD client with NFSN's protocol, which does a near atomic remove then add. My first suspect, since a brief detection window plus negative caching would explain 5 to 10 minute outages, but NFSN sets the zone serial to the Unix timestamp of the last modification, and it reads July 7th on both name servers before your incident on July 8th. The recent outages are happening with no zone change at all. Correct. Caught in the act. On my very first probe cycle, Cloudflare returned NX domain, while both NFSN authoritative servers answered correctly with the right IP and identical serials. 20 seconds before and after. The zone is not DNS SEC signed, and the parent delegation is clean. So a resolver can only learn NX domain from an authoritative response. The leading hypothesis, one instance in NFSN's Anycast name server clusters is intermittently serving a stale or empty copy of the zone. That fits everything intermittent a few times a day, 180 seconds negative TTL sized outages unaffected by recreating the record IP never changing. What's running now? A probe is logging every 20 seconds. It queries both name servers by IAP, SOA serial, Google Cloudflare, and on any resolver failure, it captures the DOH JSON authority section, which includes the serial of the zone version that produced the negative answer. If that serial is old, it's smoking gun proof of a stale NFSN instance. Okay. Okay, so it thinks that we just had an... Oh, it did. Oh my god, you're... That's so wild. Okay, so it did. There was a down and back up at 8:12. Okay. When the next incident fires, just tell me, I'll pull the matching window from the probe log. When you're on a machine with cluster access... Glad the logs to ensure it's clear. We've already done that in another one. If the probe confirms the stale instance theory, this evidence goes to NFSN support. It's their infrastructure. Or I could just send it to them now. Well, I don't know. How often does it happen? It happened twice on the 6th. Twice on... Well, how much? It runs every 20 seconds. Good catch. I wonder if something that the AI was doing to probe things is what caused it to come down. Let's see here. Anstefa says machine code. I highly doubt machine code, actually, Anstefa. Because the way that... So if you take C code and look at the machine code that you get out from it, this is pretty wild stuff, right? Like it expands massively. There's no way that you're going to train a large language model with, you know, the token being the individual instructions, you know, codes, etc., in machine code, and get a good model out of that. So it would probably be the AI is going to be more efficient with making its own language. And I would even add that if they did make a language from scratch, that like it would still plug into other stuff. It would still kind of fit into existing ecosystems, essentially. Because basically what I'm saying is that large language models benefit from abstraction just like we do. Everything will be written in Holy C code. I don't want to think about that stuff again. That operate Temple OS is weird shit. Did you guys read this stuff about how Anthropic found that there is like a space in their models that emerged on its own, that it basically becomes a thinking space for the large language model? Oh, that's so fascinating. A week would be 12 megabytes of data. That's no problem. Okay, it's concerned that something will happen and it will stop, so it wants to. This is kind of wild to me. A large language model saying, okay, this is what I can see right now. This is what I need to see to be able to, when it happens, to see what's going on. So I'm going to create this probe that runs regularly so that next time it happens, I get that data. And I want you to just keep it running. That's wild. That is, I have never had a large language model ask me to do something like that. It's a little bit like, yeah, but what if there's something in there that's like a doomsday protocol that it wrote or something that it wants, you know, like that's kind of sounds to me like something that an evil AI would ask me to do, don't you think? I looked at the code when it wrote it, so I'm okay. It was a very small probe. It is doing what it says. Got 20 minutes. I'll look at something else. Can't get in. I can't SSH into my server. I wonder if something has happened and that they've. How could the passwords have changed? Maybe something happened and it's just SSH is closed now. I said it since then. I'm going to have to connect keyboard and mouse to it and get on the terminal. That'd be something for after the stream. Hey, in the meantime, what have we been doing? We've just been meandering between 03 half and 04 half. So I'm thinking like the most likely thing is that that user actually just doesn't allow SSH. That didn't work. That's interesting. What if I try it in terminal? Catastrophic failure. Let's see here. Did this work? This is just a Docker desktop thing. What is that? Okay, let's try debugging that. This sort of stuff makes me suspicious. It's like, everything I try to do, there's a roadblock there that seems like I would have run into before. What changed? Okay, this doesn't work. Let me get onto the box and do it. Oh, I can't log into the box. Maybe I was logging into it with Arch. Oh, I can't get into Arch? Like what? The G5? No. This is stuff that I have not touched since getting a subscription. So none of this stuff has been touched by vibe coding. I'm worried that something's happened to the server because when I try to SSH into it, it's not accepting my passwords. And I had passwords written in, you know, 1Password. So like that should work. Why isn't it working? So then I just remembered when I was doing some of this stuff that it was using a different setup, and maybe I did some of it from within my Windows subsystem for Linux Arch install, and that's not working. Oh, it does kind of make me think like, I wish I was just on my Mac. Because on the Mac, everything just works. And I hate the Mac interface, honestly. Check the ports. Well, it's not a bad, except for that. Well, so first of all, it wouldn't be responding to me at all if it was the wrong ports, I think. So it can't be that. I'm going to come back here and look at the profile. Oh, that let me in. So wait, am I just typing it wrong or something? Oh, is it terminal? Okay, if this works, I'm gonna be pissed. And it lets me in. I am so confused. Oh, that's so weird. Hmm. It's doing weird shit again. So, like, I correctly log in. And then when I want to do any kind of administrator thing, it asks me for the password and it doesn't like it. And I think that all of this stuff is actually under root. Very odd. Another little impulse there, huh? Nice. Step up. A little bit of iceberging. S&P doing something. The spread that we're seeing in the micro 10-year is really bad. kind of making me think of like, maybe I should just trash. Maybe I should just reinstall the server. So I don't understand how I do. Let's try it this way. Could be Wes turn. I log in correctly. Okay, cool. Then I do Sue. Something's up. Something's up because yesterday couldn't log into it. Today I log into it. Once I'm in, I'm like, oh, okay, let's do SU or something like that. And now all of a sudden I can't log into it again. Something's up. Needs updates? No. I don't know. Makes sense. That one. Yeah, maybe it's not letting me log in because too many failed attempts. That would make more sense. It's gotta be like failed. Too many failed attempts. Which I should just turn off. Okay, well, anyways, guys. I think it's time for me to get going. I can continue messing around with this. Interesting session, honestly. I mean, we probably should have just gone long. We wouldn't have gotten too much out of it, but it did keep going. Even though the order flow is a little iffy. A little iffy. All right, so. Anyways, I'll see you guys tomorrow. In the meantime, stay excellent, team.